Great question. I'd recommend a minimum of 3 to 5 months. Most people want to put in 2 to 3 months max because that's how long most traditional in-person prep classes are oriented for, and that's what people want to invest their time. But really, it turns out that it takes closer to 5 months to reach your fullest potential on the LSAT. And given the importance of your LSAT score in the law school admission process, really, 5 to 6 months is not a crazy amount of time. I mean, if you think about it, you spend 3 to 5 years earning your undergraduate degree, but your undergraduate GPA weighs less heavily in the law school admission process than your LSAT score. So in that context, 5 to 6 months really is not unreasonable. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I have encountered people who kind of go at this exam on and off for years. You definitely don't want to be in that position. Just commit a certain amount of time, ideally 5 to 6 months, knock it out and be on your way. If people are spending longer than 5 to 6 months, they're probably not studying consistently over that entire period of time. And let's say you have family life, you're working long hours. Maybe in that case, you have to slow down your studying a bit and take it at a slower pace, maybe part-time, 10, 15 hours a week. That's okay. I think overall, if you're putting in 2 to 3 years on and off at that point, you might just want to say either you're going to do this or you're not and move on. As for it being detrimental to your studying, not necessarily. I think more is better on average, but at a certain point, you do have other things going on in your life. You don't want to get too obsessed with this, like I did, for example. You move on, at least in the foundational portion, when you have gotten a reasonable sense of what this section involves and your accuracy is at a level that you're decently comfortable with. You can't wait till you're getting perfect because this exam is hard enough that most people aren't going to achieve perfection, and that's okay. You decide for yourself when it's good enough that you have that general framework for the section, then you move on to the next thing, but you're still cycling in previous questions so you don't get rusty. That's a great question because yeah, I mean, whether you're working with me one-on-one or not, or you're coming to the classes or not, either way, most of the work is going to be happening on your own, on your end, working through the problems. Like you'll be doing probably at least 10, 15 hours of studying for every hour you spend in class with me. But on top of that, what are you doing? You're doing actual LSAT exams, previously administered official LSATs. Those combined with the course are more than enough. If you want beyond that, check out the podcast, check out the YouTube channel. LSAT Unplugged is the name of both of them. You can find them there. And that's really all you need. There are explanations on the channel and elsewhere as well, but I don't want you to use them as a crutch. Most of the work happens on your end, struggling with the problems, writing out your own thought process or at least articulating it to someone else maybe, and then comparing it against the explanations you see in the course. That's really where I think the biggest gains come from, are you analyzing your own thought process. What was tempting about the wrong answer that made you pick it? What ultimately makes it wrong? What's discouraging about the right answer that pushes you away from it? What ultimately makes it correct? That's a great question. And the LSAT is tough enough that they're really good at making tempting wrong answers and discouraging right answers, like I just said. So they often will make a really tempting wrong answer A when the correct answer is actually D or E. So I would go through all 5 just to double check yourself, make sure that you're not missing anything at all. And listen, if you got it right earlier, you're good, and it'll just be a quick confirmation. On the other hand, if it opens up something that you missed previously, at least you're catching that. It only takes an extra couple of seconds either way, and it could help you turn something from wrong to right, especially in logical reasoning and reading comprehension where they have all those ambiguities of language. I would really encourage folks to go through all 5. And this is actually becoming more common. LSAC has recently become much more liberal in granting testing accommodations, in part due to being sued several times. But the good news is that if you have ADHD or another learning disability or something else going on, apply for accommodations. The earlier, the better. Testing accommodations means you can get extra breaks and you can get extra time. And given how severely timed the LSAT is, 35-minute sections, if you can get time and a half or get double time, that's going to be enormously beneficial for you. And so if you get time and a half, then you can practice as if you're doing 53-minute sections, not 35-minute sections, or if you're getting double time, 70 minutes, not 35 minutes. And the sooner you apply, the sooner you get that confirmation, the better, because that way you can start doing full timed exams in individual sections with the new time constraints. That's the biggest adjustment, honestly, that I would make for the LSAT, and one that I recommend students to seek out earlier rather than later if they think there's even a chance that it might apply to their situation. Nothing else really changes, honestly, because the exam content really is still the same. If someone has other accommodation needs, like site issues, for example, maybe they need larger text sizes or more line spacing, the digital LSAT actually contains those features. And so if folks go on familiar.lsat.org or they're using the PDFs, they can adjust the font size of the text to better reflect what's going to be suitable for them and help them get through the questions more easily. So that's the biggest thing that would change. Not really anything else, honestly, just because the LSAT content is the same for everybody.